Welcome! This video contains an introduction, an interview so you can gain deeper understanding of the subject from spirit level, and a group frequency calibration so you can start to clear the frequency distortion patterns around this topic. Enjoy! Hi everyone, my name is Cheong and I'm here with my co-host Dennis Kelly. Most people, when they hear the word intimacy, they immediately think of intimacy with another. Today we're going to reimagine intimacy. And although when we hear the word intimacy, we usually think of two, today we're going to be discussing intimacy in its truest form, which is intimacy of self or relationship with self. What I have found to be true is that we can only experience a level of intimacy with an other that we have with ourselves. So if you are seeking or yearning for deeper intimacy in your life, chances are you're being called on to have deeper intimacy within yourself. Once we understand this, we can experience more love, acceptance, and knowingness of ourselves that can propel us further along our path. So let's jump right in. Dennis?
You know, I think your audience is really going to enjoy this session, Karen. This is one of those topics that you really wish that, grade school, high school, college, everybody at all levels would have the opportunity to talk about. Mm-hmm. And, with your opening, all I could think of is, are we truly capable of falling in love with ourselves? Mm. And what does that mean? And what does that feel like? And how does that fit in our society? Mm-hmm. Because it seems in so many cases, one of our biggest challenges is relationships. Mm-hmm. But I never think about the mm-hmm. relationship with myself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, it's all about relationship with self, because really, ultimately, that is what it is about, like the whole pie, so to speak. the whole picture.
The whole pie.
The whole pie.
The whole pie.
Yeah.
Where did pie come from?
I don't know, but it's awesome because I love pie. So yeah, I would say that, before we can even fall in love with ourselves, which is, I think, a stretch for most people, they can't even go there. So I would say that for most of us, it's even just accepting ourselves is step one. Yes, to see and accept self. That's the biggest challenge, because for whatever reason, we have difficulty with that. And there are things that we don't like about ourselves, there are things that we judge about ourselves, there are things that we don't want to be responsible for. So it's difficult to even really totally see ourselves and accept ourselves. So that's, I think, the first step. The falling in love is a black belt maneuver. Let's call it that. Exactly.
And I think I know exactly what you're talking about, because, I think about in the typical relationship, I'm looking for someone to help complete me.
That's correct.
I'm looking for someone to love, mm-hmm. and that, that it's a two-way situation. So I'm always looking outward.
Exactly.
For this love mm-hmm. that really can be quite fulfilling. Mm-hmm. But, the question I think you raise is, what do I bring to the table?
And not even to that person. I mean, before you even get to the other person, is what do you bring to the table for yourself?
Yeah.
Because really, if you can't experience love within self, it's really difficult to clearly give love to someone else without a hook attached to it. Because you want something from them. And what you want is love, attention, energy, whatever it is.
I want you to complete me.
I want you to complete me.
Please. But isn't that just very, very typical?
Yeah, and it's also very much entrenched by our media and the stories and the things that we see in the movies about, like, finding your one true love, living happily ever after. Someone completes you. It's in our songs, having someone complete you. Well, I mean, no one's ever going to really complete you. You need to complete yourself. Because ultimately, if we are complete in and of ourselves, then someone can come in and then you can love each other from a space of not needing the other person to fulfill something that it almost seems unfair to burden someone with. really. Then it's a joyful giving. It's a joyful, we get to experience loving each other because it's really joyful and fun, but it's not because I need it from you. And I'm going to do whatever I need to do to manipulate, cajole, whatever, to get from you, or even just try to get, all right, or need. So it's really freeing in relationship with other to first have this completion within self, because then when you do go into relationship with someone else, it's at a much higher level, because now both people are coming from a space of joyfulness, of like, I get to love you and I get to receive love from you, but if I don't, it's okay. It's truly okay, because I have that within myself. I love myself. I recognize my own worth. I recognize my own beauty. I recognize what I bring. I recognize all that stuff, and I love all of this. And it's not, again, about a comparison to anyone else. I'm not better than. I just recognize this for who I am. My own brilliance, my own magnificence of who I am in the world. And that in itself is really liberating. So just to give you an example, I mean, I've been married to Chris for almost 20 years now, which is a very long time in a very short time. And what I'll say is, for a long time, we have these things where we often adventure on our own. Like he'll go off and go on a motorcycle venture, or I'll go do my own adventure, whatever. And at first, in the young part of my relationship, I wouldn't have allowed that, really, because not allowed him, but allowed even me to have that, because I would have thought, oh, we have to do everything together because we complete each other, right? That's our thing. We always do things together. And then, so the first step for me was, okay, let's adventure and have different stories and different experiences on our own that are fulfilling and enriching for each of us. So when we come together, we're with richer versions of ourselves. And then the real liberation for me was when he went on an adventure, and I would always call him or text him and say, how are you doing and stuff, and like, I'm worried about you, or I want to check in, especially if it's on a motorcycle, right? And riding in the middle of I don't know where. And then one time, after receiving frequency work, he went off on his own, and I didn't text him and I didn't call him because I didn't need to. And I thought to myself, wow, this is liberation, because I've liberated him from needing to like take care of me, right? He's off having his adventure. Like he's exploring and doing his own thing, and he's having a great time. And it doesn't mean he doesn't love me, it means he's adventuring, right? He's having an experience. And I don't need to like try to pull him towards me. I don't need him in that way. So for me, that's liberating, because I love him and I don't need him in that way. So it's a sweetness to it, and allows both of us to be free. It's really amazing.
So when you talk about liberation, it's not only a liberation of self, but it's a liberation and an allowance for the other person.
Yeah.
And let me try something here, okay?
Sure, go for it.
So, the discussion about you've got this person, and you got this person, and they come together.
Yeah.
And it's almost like there's a third.
Yes, a third is created, because you're masterminding.
A third field of energy. So now, if this person is at peace, and, and this person's at peace, I can't imagine how wonderful that third.
Yeah, the mastermind.
Mastermind. You've just elevated the whole concept of relationships tremendously.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, I always feel like, in part, our culture is so about an other.
Yeah.
Other. Like it's all external. And the thing is, we'll never find peace, because we'll always be reliant on someone else to make us happy. Is that really fair? To put our happiness on someone else?
It can turn into a burden, quite a burden.
Well, exactly.
And every day I have to be concerned about whether or not you're happy.
And can you truly make me happy?
And can I just go about my day?
No.
Hey, get back here.
Exactly. But my other question is, can someone else truly make you happy? Can they? Because the thing is, if you can't make yourself happy, if you don't have your own sense of happiness, I'm not saying you don't have days where you feel crappy and you don't feel human.
It's wonderful to be together. But what you're saying is, oh my God, I cannot be happy unless you're, get back here.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And if you can't be happy on your own, chances are it's going to be hard for someone else to truly make you happy once the chemistry wears off and all that thing. And is it really true happiness, or is it one of need? Is this relationship now turning into something else that is not really about each person being fully embodied and empowered on their own right, coming from a place of strength? And what I see often with people is when they are not complete and in themselves and happy in themselves, they want to merge into someone else. And oftentimes it's about control. They want to control the other. Yeah. So it's an interesting dynamic to see. It's not only in intimate partners, between lovers, I mean. It also can happen between, parent and child, mother and child, or mother and child, whatever. So intimacy, emotional intimacy is not just between lovers. This is close friends, whomever, right? Yeah. So the more that we can accept ourselves, and then eventually love ourselves, because that's a big stretch. Right? Yeah. So know ourselves, accept ourselves, eventually love ourselves in our beingness, then we truly free ourselves and others. That's the key.
So, I'm curious. So you've got these two people.
Yeah.
And let's say they've grown apart, and it's time for them to, just be at peace with that and to allow each other their journeys. Do you find sometimes that, as they separate, energetically, the one will cling to the other one? And so it's almost like there has to be some kind of release so that both parties can truly be free?
Yeah. So, yes, that happens a lot. A lot of times there's more than a clinging. There's a hooking into the other, right? It actually can be much more insidious than a clinginess. It can be actually a type of control, because they want to possess the other person. They want to claim them. They want to have them for whatever reason, because they really, no, not for whatever reason, because they don't feel complete on their own. There's no reason to possess or control anyone else. If you feel complete on your own, why would you need someone else? If you're complete, you don't need anyone else. You're good. So that's a lot of times where control comes in. And yes, so there can be hooks, there can be clinginess, there could be what I call heart cord intertwining, where it's almost like these tendrils from the heart that come out and intertwine with the other, and you need to release that on the frequency level so that they can let go of you. So it even can be from the person that you shared your first kiss with, whatever. They can still be around, or and it doesn't again have to be an intimate partner. It doesn't have to be like it can be just an emotional intimacy. Your best friend, your whatever, your brother, your sister, whatever. It doesn't matter, but it can be that kind of relation, because it just has to do with intimacy of the heart. It doesn't have to do necessarily with intimate partnership between lovers.
Yeah. And so, with your gift and your talents, you're in a position to help people in those situations.
Yes, because ultimately it's about strengthening self. Yes? Yeah. Ultimately, all of this has to do with clearing all this stuff out so that you yourself can feel complete. Yeah. And I keep using that because it's hard for me to, in words, describe what this is. But really, on a spirit level, it's almost like what I see is this glowing, smooth sphere that's complete. There are no holes. It's completely glowing, intact, smooth, self-sufficient, right? Connected to pure source. So it doesn't have any weird things trying to hook into it. It doesn't try to hook anything else. It's just radiating its magnificence on its own. So that's what I mean. So this process is about getting to that point.
Can I throw out another scenario?
Yeah.
So, we're talking about these relationships and they may grow apart and, whatever. But what about the situation where, let's say you've got a young couple, maybe they've been married 7 or 8 years, and one of the people passes. And so now you've got a situation where neither one of them wanted to, they really had this amazing relationship. And now one has passed. And so this other person is just so brokenhearted and just...
Yeah, so what you're talking about isn't actually, from my perspective, oftentimes what happens, you with your hands said one has passed. What happens is the person doesn't pass, they go into the other person. Okay, so the brokenheartedness comes from, so Okay, so now we're going to talk about death, and we're going to talk about this more in another episode. So I'm not going to go too into it.
Okay,
but oftentimes what I'll say is that we are not educated very much about death in our culture because we're afraid of it. Okay, so we don't talk about it, and it's appropriate, it's rude, and then we die, and then we freak out because we don't really know what we're supposed to do. We go, oh, here we are. Yeah. And so instead of crossing, because we all assume that when we die, we cross into pure source, we don't. Most of us freak out because we don't know what to expect. And then we go into the body of someone we love, oftentimes or someone that feels familiar to us, like a child, or someone, a relative, because that frequency is very familiar to us. So we'll go into the body of a beloved or something like this, right? So that attachment where they can never feel, where they feel like, oh, I can never find anyone who can replace this person. I'm brokenhearted. They'll never be as good as this person, is because literally this person is in their body. And part of their identity now is this other person. So until I remove the other person and cross them where they really want to go is back to pure source. So until I cross them into pure source, this person can't be free. The survivor can't be free. Now it doesn't mean, I just want to make this very clear, that you love each other less, that you don't cherish each other, that you cherish the memory and it wasn't as precious, because it still is. But what happens is it liberates both, because this person, the one who's passed, can actually cross to pure source where they're want to go because they have passed, and they can be free. The person who's surviving can then cherish the memory of that person and continue onwards because they're not having that person in their body. They're not still bound by that other person who doesn't really want to bind them, but it's just sort of happened.
Well, I'll tell you what you just did, Karen. You have just created a tremendous desire from your clients to see that session on death and passing.
Well, we will.
And that'll be fun to go deeper and to talk further about that. So,
totally.
But just kind of circling back about, feeling complete within ourselves and just that golden opportunity to really, the project always starts right here, doesn't it?
It always comes back to self. Because it really, all this other stuff is, I probably will get into trouble for saying this, but this is all an illusion for you to learn from. It really is about here. It's about you, your connection to pure source, end. So all of this is a tremendous playground for you to learn from. All these people, all these situations, I mean, it seems very real to us, but it's just learning. Not that I'm not belittling it, because it's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity to learn, and it's learning. So ultimately, this being willing to look at self, to know yourself, to accept yourself, to transcend the things that you feel are weak or dark within you, ultimately that will free you. Unless you're willing to look, you can't be free of it. Once you're free, then you're complete. And then you can, if you would desire to, you can be in relationship. And not just with an intimate partner, but with anyone, really. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, you just set up another tremendous, just tremendous interest in illusions.
Yeah, well,
and so that another session.
Another session.
Here we go. Well, thank you very much for this, Karen. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Karen, could you help me? I hear so often when I look at your video or your website, GFC. Exactly what is that?
A GFC is a group frequency calibration, which looks a lot like a guided meditation on a particular topic. And what I'm doing is I'm helping you to remove the distortion patterns of that particular topic. And because you're coming together as a mastermind in a group to connect to pure source even more and to clear the distortion patterns of this particular topic, what happens is a tremendous amount of momentum starts to happen because of the energetic of the entire group, and each individual is able to move faster and ascend higher than they could have on their own.
Welcome everyone to the Group Frequency Calibration on Intimacy Reimagined. So let's begin by taking 3 deep breaths together. And you're going to bring your focus, attention, awareness to your solar plexus, which is between your belly button and the base of your sternum. And your sternum is that big, thick bone in the center of your chest where the ribs meet in front of your body. So as you bring your attention and awareness to your solar plexus, let's begin by taking a deep breath for a count of 4. And then holding your breath for a count of 4. And whenever you get to your exhale, please exhale for a count of 5. And then hold your exhaled breath or your voided breath out for a count of 5. And when you're ready for your second breath, you're going to please inhale for a count of 5. And then hold your inhaled breath for a count of 5. And when you're ready, please exhale for a count of 6. And hold your exhaled breath out for a count of 6. And on your third breath, you're going to inhale as slowly as you can and hold your breath for as long as you can. And when you're ready, you're going to exhale as slowly as you can. And when you get to the bottom of your exhale, please hold out your exhaled breath or your voided breath for as long as you possibly can. And when you feel like you can't hold it out any longer, please hold it out for a second longer. And whenever you're complete with your 3 breaths, please bring your attention, awareness, focus to your xiphoid process, which is right at the base of your sternum. So it's that little fleshy point that when you press it, it's a little bit sore. That's your xiphoid process. Just waiting for the mastermind to gel. Whilst I'm doing that, please note, for those of you who are new, that I'm working on you at the group and the subgroup level, and that I'll be making noises on my end. So you will likely hear me exhale sharply, you'll likely hear me hum, or even yawn, and even though I'm not tired. And that's just the way that I remove the distortion patterns or move the frequencies around. At least for now. There we go. All right. So now, as you focus on your xiphoid process, let's ask ourselves the following question. How can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source. And that question again is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself that question, please imagine, see, sense, feel, or become aware of a brilliance deep within the center of your body. That becomes brighter, more expanded, even more radiant as you become even more aware of your connection only to pure source. And on my side, I'm working on the back end to increase your natural bandwidth at whatever level that you are at. Yep. Nice. All right. So we're going to bring our attention, awareness, focus back to our solar plexus between our belly button and the base of our sternum. And the first distortion pattern that we're going to remove is that of, depending what subgroup you're in, dislike, loathing, or resistance to yourself in its entirety. Okay, so you're okay with parts of you, but not others. Especially for those of you who feel like you're very awakened. Or sometimes as we go into the brilliance, we don't want to look into the places that are dark. Which ironically causes them to become more dark. All you have to do is breathe and become aware of your solar plexus, whether or not this makes sense to you. And as a note, for those of you who are new, if I say something that really resonates with you, it's likely you. If I say something that you really have a resistance to, it couldn't possibly be me, it's likely you. So I invite you to be open to that possibility. Good. And in that same place, actually, we're going to tighten the focus. You're going to move your attention just to your xiphoid process, right at the base of your sternum. Just bring your focus, attention, awareness to that point. So this is the frequency distortion pattern of low self-worth or non-deserving. So this can often show up, or it may show up for you as not all of you is worthy of being loved, of being accepted, of being seen by yourself, let alone by other. So if you have a tendency to try and hide parts of yourself or not show all of yourself, especially to someone who you're trying to impress, it's because of this pattern. Okay? So we're just going to remove this. Good. Now please bring your attention, awareness, focus to your spine. From the point which would be right behind your heart, all the way up to your occiput, which is that bump on the back of your head. So the point right behind your heart, all the way up to your occiput in your spine. Okay? All right, so this is the frequency distortion of defendedness. Okay. So, it's a level of defendedness, like you'll only let people in to a certain degree, and then that's it. So you don't really trust others to come closer than a certain point with you. Okay, even if they are someone that you want to become intimate with. You can have polarizing or two yearnings at the same time. So it's like you want to hold people at arm's length. Okay? Even if you appear in the world to be very warm and friendly, they only get to come in to a certain degree. And on the very opposite end of this spectrum, of this frequency, there is, how do I explain this? There's no defendedness because there's no sense of self. So it's just a desire to merge into the other all the time because it makes you feel complete. So on the one hand of this frequency distortion is this defendedness, and the other is a total lack of it, the desire to merge into the other. So whatever end of the spectrum you are on, all you have to do is keep your attention, awareness, focus in that part of your spine. And for the one where you want to merge, those of you who want to merge with the other, it's like you want to lose yourself in the other, as if it will save you. Okay? So you can't really save another. You can only save yourself. Because we have something called free will, and we don't have the right to take it from someone else. Which is a good thing, because that means that we have power and authority over ourselves, which also means that we're accountable for where we are. No one else is doing it to us. So just breathing or bringing your focus to your spine, between your heart, back of your heart, and the occiput. Good. All right. Please bring your attention, focus, awareness to your upper ribs, your upper rib cage. Wherever that is for you is just fine. You can't get it wrong. Just becoming aware of that space as you breathe. So this is the distortion pattern, and as I've been working here, as we've been keeping our focus here, of the fear of the loss of freedom. On the one hand. And then depending on the subgroup you're in, so it's the fear of loss of freedom, and the other is the desire to control another. So the desire to control their freedom. so that we can feel safe and certain. Okay. So it kind of depends what subgroup you're in. It's the same frequency, just different ends of it, sort of. So whether or not this is comfortable for you to acknowledge, please keep your attention on your upper ribs. I want to remove the distortion. And as a note, for those of you who feel the need to control others, freedom in order to feel certain and safe in intimate partnership, for the vast majority of you, this is a lineage pattern. So it's something you've inherited. So, just as a note. Good. All right. Now bring your attention, awareness, focus to, if you're a woman, your womb space, and if you're male, to your pelvic girdle. Okay. So this pattern has to do with, it's a different kind of defendedness. Okay, it's like a holding at bay. So it's holding people away from you. And it's because there is a distortion pattern that's resulted from either abuse, depending on the subgroup that you're in, or being controlled by another. And that could look like you always wanted to be with them, you were desperate to be with them, you felt like you would die without them. That is a form of control, just to make that really clear. Okay. So, keep your attention here. Releasing this so you can have some freedom, some more ease. And so you don't repeat the same patterns of who you choose to be in relationship with. Bringing your attention now, please, to your solar plexus. Just need to work on your pain bodies a little bit. They're freaking out a bit. Keeping you nice and integrated. All the change on spirit level into the mental, emotional, physical plane. Nice. So for those of you who would like to go further, there are 2 deep dives that can help you. One on emotional intimacy and the other on intimate partnership. Both found on sphericalluminosity.com. For the rest of you, you can stay here for as long as you'd like. And I look forward to meeting you on the next GFC.